afternoon. Hello, everyone. I am Jada Ingleton, WI Content Manager, and today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Jospeh-Douglas, the Director of Education at the Children's Theater Company. The Children's Theater Company is a part of a very pivotal, integral partnership with Bethune Arts Elementary School that Ann will be joining me to talk about today. So before we get started, we do have a clip for you to get a little bit of preview about this conversation. So why don't we roll it and then bring Ann on? That was absolutely adorable. As someone who is a sucker for musicals, I loved that. Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And why don't you give our audience a little bit of context about what clip we just watched?
Oh, we just watched a clip from one of the Children's Theater Company's productions last season called Milo Imagines the World. It's about a little boy and his sister as they travel the subway for I always estimate it takes half a day to get there, but their mother's incarcerated. And it's about how he deals with those challenges, and what he does is he dives into his art. And then during the course of the play, his artwork comes alive as he imagines the world and who people are and what is happening to them in that particular moment. So it really is an incredible, touching story about young people and how they deal when they do have a loved one who's incarcerated.
Wow, I love that. It's very interesting. And it's kind of already informing some extra questions I'm going to throw at you in a little bit. But first, of course, Ann, why don't you formally introduce yourself and tell us about this partnership between Children's Theater Company and Bethune Arts Elementary School?
Sure. Well, I'm Ann Jospeh-Douglas. I'm the Director of Education at the Children's Theater Company, which is located in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Since 2021, we've had this long-term partnership with a school in Minneapolis called Bethune Arts Elementary. It's a program in which we are involved with the school for the entire school year. So students get 30 weeks of residency programming from pre-K to fifth grade. And our programming is designed so that each year our teachers are matriculating with our students, and then we're adding more and more skills on as the students get older. We also have a family component where we have activities that we do with families and invite families here to the theater. And we work really, really closely with the teaching staff. It's been an incredible partnership, and we're looking forward for it to continue for many years.
Excellent. And, I want to know, is there a minimum, a maximum of how many students are able to join each year?
No, every student at every grade level is going to have programming with the Children's Theater Company. So our teaching artists come into the classroom once a week. And so depending on the age, our preschoolers may have 45 minutes worth of programming. Some of our older students may have an hour and 15, or sometimes even up to an hour and a half worth of programming. And so we really focus with our younger early learners. We are working with our creative play curriculum, which is our critical, our social and emotional learning curriculum. So we're really teaching them to be resilient, to understand their emotions, to understand the impact of their emotions and actions on others. And then they graduate to our Early Bridges and then Neighborhood Bridges program, which is our critical literacy program. So they're learning to look at stories through a different lens and trying to find a different voice and discover whose voice is missing and how would they change that story and why. And by fifth grade, they're working independently, writing poetry and short stories. And at the end of the year, there's always a performance. So we are a theater company. So everything that they create, we put then on stage.
Oh my gosh, I love that. There's so many different layers and benefits to the program. That's awesome. And what was the inspiration for it? How did this come to be?
Well, it started as we began to really think about how we know that how impactful the arts are for education, and we know how it is hard for all students to have an opportunity to engage in the arts. And so traditionally an arts organization may partner with a school for a couple of weeks or a couple of days. And we really wanted to take a look and understand if we had a school that had limited arts access, and we brought in as much as possible with every student at every grade level having an opportunity to engage in theater in some way, what would really happen? How can we add to the school culture? And what does that mean for student achievement down the line? And so we wanted to expand a program that may just come in for a couple of weeks in one classroom and really invest in being there year round and invest in all the students, but not just the students, the families as well. School and education can't just happen in the classroom. Parents, community members, and teachers are all a big part of helping to make a student successful. So that's what we were really looking at, is how can we make them successful and resilient as they go through from pre-K to fifth grade.
Excellent. And I want to know, when we're talking about very, pivotal developmental years for children, when we're talking, preschool, first grade, fourth, and, you're tackling different areas, both on the cultural and social side, as well as the, academic side. So can you tell me kind of the intent, if that makes sense, of why you chose these specific, you mentioned some of the arts programming that goes with different ages. How did you kind of come to the conclusion of what was best and needed for these students? And what has that feedback looked like so far?
Sure. We wanted to start with the Creative Play program, which was a curriculum we were developing pre-pandemic. And it was designed using trauma-informed practices to help students deal with their emotions and become resilient. So coming out of the pandemic, we were realizing how hard it impacted a lot of people, even our youngest learners that may have started kindergarten on Zoom or remotely. And we started to notice in the classroom how difficult it was for students to interact with each other. So if we start with a baseline where we're working with social emotional learning skills and teaching them how to be able to articulate how they're feeling, how to recognize how they're feeling, as opposed to having a big feeling and then swinging at something or someone or throwing something or someone, being able to discuss their feelings, and then also having their feelings validated. And if we do that and we create that safe space for a kid, what we can create is a risky student. And what I mean by risky student is a student that isn't afraid to take a risk in the classroom. Just because I don't know something, or it might be the wrong answer, a lot of times students will sort of shrink and hide back. But if a student feels that they're being supported by their peers, by their teachers, and this is a classroom that is designed where we can make mistakes and then we learn from those mistakes, I'm gonna, be the first one to raise my hand or jump in. Or I'm gonna be the student that's gonna help my friend out that's maybe struggling to spell a word or struggling with math concepts. So that's where we really wanted to start. And then we wanted to focus in on writing skills, because writing skills are extremely important. And a lot of times students, because we're doing a lot of our work digitally, students aren't actually going through the act of writing, and we're forgetting how that impacts the brain and the development of the brain if a student isn't actually physically taking pen to paper or pencil to paper to write.
Interesting. I love that. And it's impressive to hear, that 97% of caregivers have reported their children look forward to the arts and theater programming. So, you're seeing a lot of transformative results from this. How has, in what you were just saying, how the arts has played a role in all of this? Where do you see kind of that future of arts and education intersecting? And why is arts maybe the best route to try and, reach students, especially coming out of a pandemic where, socially and honestly, academically, a lot of people took a hit.
Yeah, we're still struggling. We're still trying to come back. We're still seeing the impacts. Last year, we were seeing different behavior patterns from third graders across the board. And those third graders were the ones started school during the pandemic. I think it is extremely important that the arts are always considered alongside all of our other core academics. When we think about math, when we think about science, we think about reading, we think about writing. Studies have shown time and time again how students outperform academically. Those students that have access to the arts, whether it's theater, whether it's dance, whether it's music, whether it's visual arts, than those students that don't. That it's really important that we understand that there are many different pathways to learning, and some people are physical learners, so they want to get up, they want to do things, they want to dance, they want to move, and some students sort of take a back seat and just want to sit back and write. And with the arts, what it does is it provides, it gives students confidence, it gives students the ability to work together, it gives students the ability to listen, and there's always a sense of pride. We're not interested in training when we're working with the school. It's not that we want to train the next great theater artist. If we find one, fantastic. We have this wonderful facility where they can come and take classes. But what we want to do is work alongside those teachers to make sure that we are providing something that is aligning with the classroom goals and aligning with the achievement goals that the student and the school and the district have mapped out. And the arts is one way of multiple ways for students to learn.
Excellent. And, when you've mentioned already some of, the social skills, the learning how to listen, the learning how to engage with other people, how does these skills sort of translate even long term, when we're thinking lifelong readiness and going out into professional careers, whether it's in the arts or not?
Yeah, people become much more empathetic to other people. We were just talking about empathy and grace, and that's a lot of the story around Milo. The video that you showed at the top of this show was grace for other people and knowing what they're going through in the world. Participation in the arts sort of opens up global stories for people so that they start to empathize with other people's experience. So that's one way. And then also another way too is that confidence, is that ability to be able to try something or to offer up a new idea and not sit back in that meeting room. You're an adult, you're in a meeting, you're working with the team, and you don't want to sit back because you don't want to say the wrong thing. But you don't know if the thing that you're holding on to is the one thing that's going to make this project work or make it move or so it really does give that confidence that people need to be there to bring their best to work every day. And then also the ability to deal with having struggling. I am struggling, and to be able to say, I am struggling right now. I either need help, I either need a break, or I just need to move on from whatever it is that I'm doing. But that's what the arts sort of helps people do. We're also really great at pivoting. Something isn't working, let me pivot. Let's try a new idea, let's pivot. And that's what we discovered working with these teachers at Bethune, is teachers are incredibly skilled at pivoting. When something isn't working in the classroom, how do I switch so that it's landing, as opposed to just sticking to, there's not one model not one way works for everybody. And of course we have kids that come in and they're like, ugh, but by the end of the year we got it.
No, I can imagine, you always have that shy kid who doesn't want to stand up in front of the class and read the script.
But they want to direct that play. So we find
exactly.
them, we say, you know what, this kid's a leader. They don't want to be they don't want to be the center of attention, but they do want to be a leader. So let's teach them those leadership skills.
And it definitely goes to what you were saying, at the top of the conversation about, gauging different types of intelligence. Mm-hmm. And I can't just stress enough how important this specific project is coming out of the pandemic, because a lot of the things you mentioned, between the confidence and, just even coming back into school and learning how to ask questions and being open to asking questions. A lot of people kind of retracted from that in a sense after so many years of virtual learning and only interacting via, honestly, off camera for a lot of people. So
Right.
I think this is great at, not only just building up these specific students, but maybe even trying to rebuild the future of education and arts and what they mean in the middle.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I
really
love
excited about this project.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. You go.
No, I love it. I love it. And I'm excited to learn more. And hopefully, like I was saying before, to see how it can, translate on a national scale. And you mentioned that there was some DC influence behind it as well. How would you like to see more initiatives like these take place, beyond where it is now?
So we were inspired by this project through work that came out of the Kennedy Center and through the Obama administration, where arts integration was offered into schools, and they would start to see attendance rise, and then they would see disciplinary actions start to drop in these schools where they were bringing in music, and so that's how we started having these turnaround art schools around the nation. So there's schools around the nation that are turnaround art schools that have come from this effort through the Obama administration. So, and Bethune happens to be one of those schools. And so schools that are partnered with professional artists, this is how the program started back then. And so I watched a series of videos about them that the Kennedy Center had released, and I thought, okay, this is excellent. This is something that I've always been asking for. I was an arts kid. I went to fine art schools. We had arts every single day. And I was able to try different instruments, try different dance classes. All of these things were just a part of my education. And so it's been my goal that kids have that kind of access and that kind of choice to the arts. And that's what we wanted to bring to Bethune. So, and Bethune has incredible arts partners for music and for dance, but what they didn't have was a theater partner. So we thought, okay, let's bring them a theater partner. Programs like this, they take time. We took our time and we started with our youngest grades first so we can build the program up, really working with our teaching artists and the school, but then also listening to the school and asking them questions. What does the school really need? How can we help you provide what you really need? And that's really important if a school around the country wants to start a program like this and already has an arts organization in mind that they want to work with. It doesn't need to be a theater company. It could be any arts organization. But it is really important that you are collaborating on the ground with those teachers and building those relationships and not coming into the classroom saying, I know best. You know best about your art, but working together, you two really will know best. So that's been the key, and that's how these things can start. And it just takes a commitment. Yes, it does take money, but it takes a commitment from the school to say, this is what we want and this is what we need. And I'm a firm believer that a good school creates great neighborhoods, right? If you have a good school, that's going to attract people. People want to move into that neighborhood. Small businesses will come into that neighborhood. If you have community organizations that want to invest in that school, we cannot just continue to drop our kids off at school and hope they're successful. Even if we're not a parent or we're parents of grown-up kids, we still have an obligation to the kids that are in our community to ensure that they have the best possible chance at success, right? And so that's what always drives me, that if we could really realize the value of a great school and how that impacts out and creates great neighborhoods and places where people want to be and invest in and that are safe, that could change a lot.
Yes, I actually love that answer because you're answering questions I didn't even have to ask now. I love that response, and it's true. It really does. The schools, the community at large, they kind of go hand in hand. And then it's just also in terms of how youth, come together and how they grow up. It is all of that. So excellent. And I love that you mentioned, have continuously mentioned that it's a collaborative effort. with the families, with the teachers. So can you tell me maybe a memorable moment you've experienced specifically with like nurturing those family connections of the students that have come in?
We have some of the best families at Bethune, and I loved having this opportunity to get to know them. So we also offered Bethune Family Nights, where Bethune families and teachers and their families, we come and have dinner together here at the theater, and then we all see a show together. So that's the biggest way that we've been getting to know some of our families. And we have one grandmother that is helping to raise her 3 very young grandchildren. And she is the most incredible woman, and how she prioritizes providing this opportunity for her grandchildren to come see shows, that she gets on a city bus to get to Bethune, where we provide transportation for families that need it. And then will come and have dinner and break bread with us. And then they take that bus back, but then they have to get on a bus to get back home. And she prioritizes this because she sees the value of it, which is really great. We have some other families that through this program that they discovered that their student really loves the arts and is really interested in the design aspects of theater. So they enrolled them in some design camps here over the summer, which has been really great. We did some summer programming at Bethune last summer and had a young student that was really resistant and didn't even want to walk into the classroom and would just stand at the doorway. And eventually we learned that she also liked art, and we were able to get her into the room because she designed all of the set pieces for the final performance. And so working with her and her mother and just being really slow about it. And that's the other thing, is we have the gift of time that schools don't really have. And so we can allow students to take their time to decide what is going to bring them in, what's the hook.
Excellent. Well, and this partnership, I mean, it's a blueprint for how schools and arts organizations can come together effectively. And, I love that on the surface, it's all about, engaging in the arts and what you can learn from the arts, but it's also tackling, significant achievement gaps in places and educational challenges in places. And places like cities like DC can really benefit from that. So can you tell me, what can our viewers, especially coming from other cities in DC or other areas just in general, what can they learn from your experiences to implement similar collaborations?
Sure. The first thing is always ask questions. No one in the room is ever the expert, except for, of course, the young person. They're the expert in themselves. They're the expert in what they like and enjoy. And then also progress in terms of achievement takes time. We measure through standardized testing. And even if we see test scores go up 2 or 3 points, we don't want to just sort of trash what we're doing. We want to say, recognize that, okay, our students are doing better. Our students are learning, and here are the results of learning. And then also, it's really important to have refined assessment tools, and that your teaching artists know how to assess the program and how the students are responding to the program as well. So we've worked with some outside organizations to help us design our assessment models and then work with our teaching artists of how to track that data. And so we've really just been working this summer to just sort of unpack the data of what we've seen from last summer, but we are starting to see student improvement in writing, in terms of being able to connect thoughts and stories, thoughts together much more clearly, writing an entire arc of a story, tracking a character, creating different characters. So it's really been great. And it takes about 13 weeks of programming to really start to see the impact. So when we come in and we do a residency for 6 weeks, that's wonderful. But if you really want to start to see some impact, it takes about 13 weeks just to start to see improvement.
And do you ever, I know you mentioned you yourself were an arts kid. How does that feel for you to kind of be pouring back into the next generation what arts meant for you?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, what I've meant to do. At this point, I remember as a kid, we would have teaching artists come in to our school, and we had a storyteller that would come in and tell African folktales and stories. And I loved every time he came in, and he would, I just remember thinking in the third and fourth grade, this must be the best job in the world. How do I get a job like that? And then as I grew up, I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. And then the first time I was in a classroom with a group of students, it dawned on me that this is what I asked for when I was 10. Like, here I am. So it feels really, it feels wonderful. And, I spent 20 years in Chicago as a professional actor, and I get the equal amount of thrill working and seeing young people succeed as I did with me being on stage or booking a television show or something like that. So I realize I'm not giving up anything. I'm just gaining a lot. And working with young people, you realize that it's not just that young person who's in front of you right now. Those lessons that you leave with them, eventually they're going to share them down the line, like that teaching artist did with me. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm a result of his incredible work in the classroom that just inspired me to be in the classroom.
Excellent. I love that answer, and I'm glad you are able to have that feeling and connection, not only to the students, but just to what you do. It's a blessing to literally get up and love what you do every day.
Yes, it is. So. It is.
Definitely. Oh, that's wonderful. And just my last question, Anne, what aspirations do you have for this partnership and the future of arts education in schools in general?
Mm-hmm. I would love for this partnership to continue to grow. I would love to be able to look at starting this program in the middle school that a lot of the Bethune students feed into. We are working to recreate this program at a couple of other schools in the Twin Cities as well. I would love arts education to be a top priority, not only for our school district, but for our legislators. We're at a critical time right now when funding is being held back and we're looking at dismantling education. Public education is extremely important. It is our job to ensure that our next generation is prepared to take on and lead. And without public education, we're going to be leaving a whole group of people behind. And arts education can be an extremely important and valuable partner to public education.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And it's truly inspiring to not only have spoken to you, but just to know that there is a community, dedicated to nurturing the next generation through the transformative power of the arts. And, even though myself, I am not I'm not craftsy. I love the arts. I'm definitely not good with my hands. So the student that was building the sets and all that, mm-hmm. My hat's off to her. But moral of the story is you can see even just on the outside looking in how important the arts is clearly to a person's development, but also just to how they view the world. So you guys are doing amazing work, and I hope that you can be an influence for more collaborations and initiatives like this around the world, truly.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and thank you for joining us. For our viewers, of course, you can get more information by looking at those links that just popped up. And in the meantime, Anne, thank you for sharing your insights, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.